Good evening, it's 7 o'clock. We have a quorum. We'll call the planning board meeting to order. First up for general information is Northeast Solar.
Are you here for the Moody Bridge Road?
Yeah, June for it.
Okay, we have you down for 7:15.
7:15,
Yeah,
okay.
that's fine.
Great.
David Tanner, Mr. Tesla.
Good evening, gentlemen. David Tanner, attorney for a second meeting here to present a revised plan for the Tesla charging station at the new Pride store. We had conversations with Conscom as well as the fire chief and the building inspector. Some of the things requested by Conservation Committee was that we ensure that this tree was retained because we had to move these transformers up slightly outside the footprint of the water displacement area for the underground storage. We also ensured that this fuel tank, the propane tank, is moved down and that the fire chief is okay with its location and proximity to the existing electric vehicle chargers. And in addition to these items, we slightly shifted the electric vehicle charging equipment up outside of the footprint of this and ensured that it's in the 125 foot plane for flood control, so we wouldn't have any issues with compensatory storage for floodwaters.
So the elevation that you're above that,
We are above the 125, correct?
by how much?
We're actually on the 125, so I have email confirmation from Conservation Committee that they find no non-conforming aspects of the project, as well as email confirmation from the DPW head that he has no concerns about it. I spoke with Fire Chief earlier today. He was trying to send me an email, but he's having email difficulties today. But we'll be confirming that there's no non-conforming aspects.
Now, one of the things that we talked about the last time you were here was the parking that you're displacing. What are you doing to make up for it?
So in this situation, we're going to have all of the parking be enabled parking, so it will not be reserved for Tesla customers. General parking persons can park in these spaces. It's a large investment on our part to put a $40,000 system in place that someone may obscure with a Toyota Camry or other non-electric vehicle. But in these times, and with the design that we have, that is the choice that is in front of us.
So long as that thing, there's no signs that it's restricted for a particular use, then it's a general parking area? Is that what you
Correct.
guys are saying?
Right, so we typically put signage up that indicates that a Tesla vehicle can charge there. We don't put anything to the effect that it's restricted. We don't have any verbiage like only. We don't have any towing or non-compliant, use ticketing type language. I welcome you gentlemen to go check out the station and park in the back. You shouldn't get any, eyes from any of the other patrons.
What is this going to look like?
Certainly, so this will look like a row of our supercharger stations. They stand about this tall. I passed out the printout last week. So it will look like this along the back line, and then there will be some equipment that will have some shrouding by vegetation in front of it.
So this is going to be the only signage on those little individual chargers?
Right, we had proposed a small monument sign over here. They stand about this tall, but I don't think we'll be able to get through permitting with that in time, so we'll be eliminating it from the plan at this time.
I'll be able to get permitting probably at all with it.
That's probably the case.
Is there any way to plant some type of foliage to block the view of those from the street?
Of the chargers themselves, the white posts.
Yeah, I find them quite unattractive. I know you can see a bunch of them when you come over the Sagamore Bridge off the Cape. And
Well, they're going to be blocked from Route 9 by the
They're all in the
building.
back.
Yeah,
What do you
they're
care
behind
about
the
that?
building. I will say there's going to be a substantial amount of foliage around the charging equipment itself, so,
You're not gonna see that from Route 9. Right out here?
yeah, the bulk of the charging station in particular is,
So you got, so these are universal, you got those two universal chargers?
exactly, there's actually 4, so these 4 spaces will be served by universal chargers.
I don't think the bylaw covers charging stations, does it?
No,
I don't think so.
No,
I
obviously
didn't think
not.
so. I think we can require whatever we want to require.
I can't see any problem with this because they're not restricting it, there's not tows on it, nothing like that. So I personally don't see
The
any
problem
problem with that.
we face is that
originally we approved a site plan, and now we're getting revision, another revision, and this is once again, another revision. And it appears that it's almost like they have their camel's nose in a tent, and they keep adding things on, whether it's with signs, or whether it's the setback from the highway, or whether it's adding charging stations. And I think to Jim's point, it's correct. We have certain number of parking spaces set aside regarding the size of the building. But this is another use being added, so you're usurping the spaces that were originally dedicated to this building here. So, I would not be against it if they had added some extra parking places like was originally designated for these buildings.
Is that the general feeling of the committee?
Pardon?
I'm just curious, that's the general feeling
I
of the
would, I
committee?
would like to see not necessarily 15 spaces added,
Mhm.
but maybe half a dozen added somewhere. That's my opinion.
I can give you 5. So this is a plan showing 5 spaces added here on the plan. And so if you do the calculations based on how many spaces are required, they're in excess. Actually, if you do the legal determination of how many spaces are required in the state of Massachusetts,
We don't care about the state of Massachusetts, we care about how the zoning bylaws.
I understand. So there's case law about the interpretation
The governor agrees.
that says that these spaces between the pumps count as parking, but regardless, taking that out of the equation, there are 5 additional spaces that we can add to this plan here, which would reduce the load by, 4 to 5 additional spaces in the back. If we're allowed to make these reserved spaces in the back and keep the other ones enabled, then perhaps that reduces the concerns about parking to some degree.
As far as I can tell, Tesla isn't making any money yet, earnings, and they're kind of burning cash. So the question is, worst case scenario, Tesla doesn't make it, who's gonna be responsible for moving these charging stations?
For here, I would imagine they'd probably be a non-conforming use at some point, it would probably be on the landlord, would it not?
That would, yeah, that would be the landlord's issue, not something we'd have to worry about necessarily.
Okay.
But nonetheless, I would say,
Why are we looking to expand more blacktop,
We're not making,
like a sea of blacktop?
we're not expanding the blacktop, we're just gonna add spaces right there that's, what is this right now?
that is an area where they were intending to have a loading truck in this area. So this space is available for parking and they can make that work. If the committee requires additional parking to be provided, it's not as convenient for operations of the site, but that was how Clyde recommended we attempt to address it.
How is cars gonna park in front of an unloading? That's for,
They would get rid of the loading space, they would put spaces.
They have to shorten it.
They have to shorten it up. Oh, right here,
that's this part right here.
yeah. So they would put the spaces right here.
So how many are you proposing now?
That would add 5 spaces to the facility.
So you're gonna have 5 charging spaces.
Well, would it be safe to say we would be allowed to have 5 reserved charging stations and the rest?
No, I would not go for any reserve if you gave us those 5 spaces,
Okay,
okay?
so if we
That-
give you, I understand.
But that's just my opinion. I'm 1 out of 5. The other 4 would have to agree with that.
Just out of curiosity, how many charging stations for Tesla are in Hampshire County right now?
None,
None.
as far as I know, in terms of level 3s.
So how many you're proposing total?
12.
Okay, that's way
Well,
too
that's
many.
plus 12 Tesla plus the 4 Universal.
16.
What kind of job is it to install these things? Even say if you did so many now and if it worked out well and there was no overload to do them later. I know it's cheaper to do everything all at once. Is that a possibility?
Because of the nature of the high voltage in the systems, all the equipment has to be ordered in advance. It'd be quite expensive to oversize it now and not have the benefit of the additional utility. To actually install them later, it's a fairly simple process of dropping in a precast base and pulling conduit, which would probably be stubbed up. But again, if we did have to reduce the size, we would be spending quite a bit of money not to have the value of the infrastructure realized.
And your turnaround time per unit per car is, you said 20 minutes?
On average, it's about 48 minutes.
48 minutes.
But again, the time it takes to charge a vehicle is very dependent on the size of the battery in the vehicle, what it's pulling in with in terms of how much battery is there, what the state of charge is when you enter the station, and what the state of charge you intend to have when you leave. So with the size of our batteries changing as we go into Model 3, which is coming out soon, and the other size of the battery changing on the other end, which is the 100 series batteries, that range can fluctuate and may fluctuate down. And the particular type of use for this station, again, as an intermediate point for Vermont and other areas, as well as an interconnection point going east to west, may dictate a slightly lesser or greater amount of time in these charging stalls.
Is there any correlation between the time of day and when people are charging the cars?
Yes, typically it's in the evening and on the weekends when people are traveling.
Okay.
How long is the car, let that run on the charge?
Uh,
Assuming a full charge.
Sure, so assuming a full charge in a 100D series battery, you're clearly in a 300-mile range. The new Model 3 with the larger battery pack can do, I believe, 315 miles. So,
Now, who paid, what is there, a meter on this thing for them to pay for the use of that, or how's that work?
Tesla
Correct, so-
shareholders pay for it.
so we have a separate transformer and a separate meter, and Tesla covers 100% of the cost. We recoup some of that cost by charging customers for the electricity. However, it's still going to likely be a loss leader, and we don't expect to make a profit on this. It's really the whole point of putting in supercharger stations is to allow people to move throughout the country and have confidence in their electric vehicles, that no matter where they go, that there is infrastructure to support their use of this new technology.
This is a
I
nation.
got one other editorial comment. The worst intersection in all of Hampshire County is North King Street and Damon Road. And it's a 5 gas station, and they added a Dunkin' Donuts to the back of it. It is a nightmare when it comes to traffic. And they took away some of the parking they had. Employees can't park, people are pulling in. It's so very tight. And once again, this is going to have a lot of activity because this is not your regular 7-Eleven or convenience store. This is a grocery store plus a liquor store. And this is going to have a lot of activity. So you're usurping you're putting another business in and taking away some of the parking that's dedicated to this building. So I know I'm repeating myself, but I think unless you come up with more parking or cut down to 3 or 4 spaces maximum, I can't support it.
So, yeah, corollary to Mike's question about how many charging stations you have in Hampshire County, how many Teslas are there in Hampshire County?
I also can't release that information. As a publicly traded company, we can't disclose exactly how many vehicles are operating. here.
Publicly traded, you probably can.
Well, difference between.
How many are
publicly traded
registered
and
in
publicly traded.
Massachusetts?
I don't have that information on hand.
Well, I get that information.
I certainly could.
Well, where do these
Why is it-
people
why is it-
travel? Where do they go to charge their cars? They carry a battery charger with them?
So this
They
is
do it
a,
at home.
Yeah, but so if they're gonna go on a long distance,
Yeah,
they gotta
this is-
charge it.
Like I
This is
said,
a-
this is a nascent industry, and they're putting these in for the future. They're very hopeful.
Well,
So what's
people
wrong
are
with that?
attempting to travel throughout the area,
Yeah.
and this is a hole in the transportation grid.
I know Joe Kearns has an electric-powered pickup. He lives up in Plainfield. We're very proud of it. He's on the Council of Governments. But,
Okay,
Yeah.
so we got, to Mike, to the response to the question I had, he can give 5 extra parking spaces and keep the 16 still open for individual open use, whoever it may be, nothing will be reserved. Joe is against it, what's the
No,
rest?
that's an,
I don't have,
Seems
a-
like
I don't
a
have
good
a problem.
compromise.
I don't have a problem with it.
I don't have no problem.
I can also pull back the 4 universal spaces, which I don't know if there's an issue there. So they'd be giving 5 spaces, removing 4 spaces of electric charging infrastructure. Unfortunately, it's the universal equipment. which is not tied to our transformers. We're providing that at our sole cost, just as a, that doesn't even necessarily charge our vehicles. But the landlord asked us to provide it, we have access to the equipment, and so we were going to give it to him, and he was gonna install and power it. But if there's that much of a concern about parking
Oh, so
spaces, we can take
the
that.
universals are not yours?
We are donating them to the station to just be hooked up and turned on and provide free electricity to anyone operating an electric vehicle that can't accept that connector. So if you like, we can
Will
remove,
the universal charges go through your equipment, or he's gonna be paying for that out of his pocket?
that would go through his pocket and come through his electrical equipment.
Oh,
Our voltage is totally
that's different information. Yes.
Do you want us to remove them?
We will, for that point of view, we will take care of the Tesla, that's good information. Then that makes it a little bit more palatable. The Tesla chargers, you're responsible for, I will go with the Tesla charge. If he wants universal charges, let him come in and go for it. Let him come in and apply.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, so,
I'll support that.
Support that.
You know,
Yeah.
yeah, not for universal, and add, how many spaces was that?
5,
You want 5 added as well, okay.
yes.
Okay, so install Tesla stations, 12 Tesla, not including 4 universal. Add 5 spaces to the rear of the building,
Side of the building.
east side of the building. East of building.
Where?
And,
Where are they gonna add it? In the-
Right there. There's a loading dock, this was just blacktop with an unloading station. They're gonna add 5 parking spaces there.
So how many totally Tesla,
12
stations?
12 Tesla.
12 tests.
You know, aside from the zoning bylaw, this will reinforce the fact that Hadley is becoming more and more of a progressive community to live in.
I'd like to think it will add some additional traffic into the small commons next door too, where the Mexican restaurant
Maybe.
is in the small building.
People could do something when they got 20, 40 minutes to wash their car, get juiced up.
I hope they go and hit the bike trail, but if they want to go over and have some Mexican food in Corona, not the worst thing in the world to do either.
and the Tesla spaces to be unrestricted to other vehicles.
Correct.
Okay.
yeah, there's no parking, no tow zone, signs, anything relevant for a vehicle, other vehicles not to be there. Let's make sure that's spelled out that way.
Unrestricted to other vehicles.
Right.
No
Prohibitive signage,
prohibitive signage.
Right, you understand that?
completely.
Good.
Okay, so I'm going to make a motion to amend the site plan approval originally approved as follows. Proposed changes are not significant or major and can be addressed without reopening the public hearing. Planning board has reviewed and approved the following changes. Install 12 Tesla charging stations, but not 4 universal chargers. Add 5 spaces to the east of the principal building. The Tesla spaces to be unrestricted to other vehicles, no prohibitive signage. And Pride can return to ask for the universal.
So moved.
Just a motion.
Second.
And a second? Any other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you very much.
Good, thank you.
Would you like me to take some of these documents off the table for you? or-
Yeah, we
So
need,
let's keep one of those, because that will show where this
and
is.
one of these. You want
This is
one?
Conservation
Yeah,
Committee
give me that.
and DPW approval.
Okay.
Leave that everyone here.
That's, just one big
That's the
plan.
same one as
Yeah,
this.
you would like to,
Would you like to?
yes,
There's 2 here.
yes, just one.
And then there's a 4.
You're good.
Is the Chevy Volt making a go of it? Is it just the Chevy Volt? The electric car, the Chevrolet Volt?
Or the Chevy Volt or the Volt? They have
The
2.
Volt or the Volt? I thought it was the
The Volt's
Volt.
the hybrid, the Volt's the 100%.
Was the Volt doing anything?
They are selling a number of them. Again, that's the movement.
Are they selling to anybody besides governments, I guess is the question.
Yeah, we have 4 customers
Really?
in Amherst so far. It's actually- I'm not sorry. I didn't know that.
Oh, no, please. We have people that work at Tesla that drive the Bolt.
Really?
Yeah, well, it's in a, until our Model 3 is out, it's in the same price point. Everyone wants to move to electric, and brand agnostic as they may have to be. Thank you very much.
Good luck, thank you. Mr. Solar,
Okay. There's a theme tonight. Renewables.
It's amazing what happens when the government subsidizes something. You get more than
Hey, I don't think I'd have a job without those subsidies.
they do, really.
So this is a follow-up for Gene Foray at 5 Newbridge Road for solar electric ground-mounted system.
Is this it?
I brought 2 additional booklets.
We'll take
Color
that
if you
one.
guys want to see those.
just to get a better layout. Where's 5 Moody Bridge? That at the,
Back of Vanassus' house.
so this is off of, Bay, closer to Bay Road.
Bay
Yeah.
Road and New
Okay.
Bridge, yeah.
Okay. I just wasn't sure if 5 was at the other end of this end.
No,
This end,
Bay
okay.
and Vanassus.
Okay. Bay Road is just about here,
Yeah,
right?
that's Bay right there, yeah.
Okay. That's a couple, let's see.
You pass one down?
Yeah.
Okay. We received no comments from anybody, just the conservation that said they had no conservation issues.
Great.
That's all we got. 16 panels?
16 panels, yep.
Just out of curiosity, it can't go in the house?
Now, we looked at the house, and she's actually got a pretty big maple. Actually, if you drive on Bay Road, you can see it just towers over the house, and so that pretty much provides all the cooling she needs for the whole summer. So she doesn't really run any AC or anything.
Oh,
So to have panels on the roof, she'd have to cut that whole tree down.
so it's gonna be this one right here?
Yeah, that's the one. It's pretty big. So she's got a great site for a ground mounted system that's behind a fence, so it's out of view.
Oh, this one's gonna be in the back corner, way out here.
Yeah.
You're not gonna see this from any road?
It would be very difficult to. If you're driving from Moody Bridge over from the 4-way intersection and coming towards Bay Road, and you were coming up the hill a little bit, there's a brief second where you can sort of see behind that fence that's up there, and you would see a corner of it, just for, a second.
And how high is this elevated off the ground, the top?
The highest point is about 10 feet.
10 feet?
Yeah.
And they're not gonna see none of that?
She's got a pretty tall fence. It's like the elevation changes a little bit, but the fence itself is about 10 feet in height. That's the tallest point, too.
A 10-foot fence?
Yeah. So she's got farmers behind her, and it's not a bad view, but she just wanted some kind of barrier, I guess, so she's got a pretty tall fence right there.
How's the workflow looking for next year?
Busy.
Yeah?
Really
In spite of
busy.
the tax law change?
So actually, they didn't touch the federal
They didn't.
tax credit.
Didn't,
Yeah.
okay.
So that's in place until 2019, and then it starts
Uh-huh.
to step down a little bit for a couple of years.
What about the SREC credits, those still valid
Yeah, those are potentially going to be changing on March 31st, of
for
2018.
everybody, or is the
No, your
grandfather?
Your
grandfather,
grandfather,
don't worry, Jim,
once your
your
system's
grandfather.
installed and turned on, you're actually in that SREC program for 10 years going forward from that date. So everyone who's already in it is set, and then.
For
if
10
you're-
years or forever?
For 10 years, and then there's actually a follow-up program after 10 years that's just called renewable energy credits. So instead of just solar in the market, in auction, you're actually bundled in with wind and hydro credits also.
The reason, I've got solar on my roof, so I just wondered about.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you in one of the SREC programs?
Oh, yeah.
SREC 1?
Oh, I've had it for 5 years now.
Okay, so you're probably in SREC 1. That's great, because that's the most lucrative auction. You guys might know Ann Bronner, who's one of our owners. She's on Rocky Hill Road.
Okay.
No, okay.
Who?
Ann Bronner. She's been in Hadley for 30 years.
It's not a native then.
She's a Pelham native.
Newcomer.
I stole that line from Bill Baker, by the way.
I got
He said, "I've only been here 40 years, I'm not-"
32 pounds, I'm not gonna-
Nice.
How will it be mounted to the ground?
So it's called the Osprey Power Platform. And there's actually one of these already installed in Hadley, on 47, as you head towards the Seven Sisters, right by, Aaron's Landscape Building.
47, Route 47 goes north and south.
Yeah, so if you're heading
Sisters,
south-
East and west.
If you're heading south towards the Seven Sisters,
He means the Hoyoke Range.
Oh,
the Lower Range, sorry. There was one installed by Elm Electric. And so
So not,
it's a
not
ground mounted,
cemented, yeah, it's a,
no cement is used.
Okay.
Yeah, there's actually earth, they're called earth anchors.
that, Ray
and they're, it's like a toggle bolt that is hammer drilled into the ground to about 4 feet down.
Right,
yeah.
And then it's actually pulled and tensioned, and so the toggle bolt turns.
right before the, right before you went to the, under the mountain there?
Yeah, right before the lemonade and ice cream.
that's Ray
Yeah,
Costa.
Ray Costa.
Yeah?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, those are, they're like a big bolt, they just screwed it to the ground.
Yeah, yep.
They're funny looking, I mean, well, not funny, they're
Kinda
big
funny
screws,
looking.
they're big
Yeah,
screws.
Yep, yep.
Any
Okay.
idea how many megawatts of electricity are being produced by solar in the state now? Ballpark.
We had, so Deval Patrick, when he started out,
Yeah. Here's
throwing
one.
incentives at it,
Yeah.
his goal was 16 megawatts, or 1,600 megawatts, I'm sorry.
Uh-huh.
They exceeded that, right?
Yep, so we've exceeded that, and Baker wants to do an additional, I think he said maybe an additional 100 megawatts, something like that.
Okay, so let's do the administrative review. It's going out for interdepartmental review. We're on time. We have the required documents. Some of this is designed for, it's designed for every project, so some of it just doesn't apply to you. Of course, she has insurance because she's house, she has their site
How
control.
big is this unit, Jim?
System
many-
size
how many
or
panels?
square footage, or 16 panels?
16 panels.
And capacity,
The capacity is,
6 megawatts, 5 megawatts?
let me do the quick math here. I think we've got the system size in there, but let me just crunch the numbers really quick. So it's about a 5.12 kW size system.
5 point what?
5.12 kW,
Okay.
kilowatt.
assuming the utility company has been informed.
Yeah, we have approval to install from Eversource.
Land clearing is not applicable, soil permeability not applicable, wildlife corridors not applicable, setbacks
So what is the
okay,
use of the,
parking not applicable.
yeah,
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
the rockfish furnace?
So I'm paying 9.9 cents per kilowatt right now on my bill. What do you figure it costs to generate a kilowatt of electricity? I know I've asked this question before, but I keep trying to get a real answer.
Yeah,
What does it cost to generate a kilowatt of electricity using solar? Is it a...
well, technically it'd be free, but that, I know that's not the answer you're looking
Yeah,
for.
including
So-
tax subsidies and everything thrown in, what does it cost?
Right, so it's just difficult to take that and apply it to what you would actually pay per kilowatt hour. You could say, you know, a cost per kilowatt, it would be about, you know, $3.50 to $4 per watt to install it. And then it takes about 6 years for the system to pay
Yeah.
itself back,
Yeah.
and after that, then everything.
So I
you
can't
produce is
divide
free.
that quickly. What does it cost per kilowatt?
Per kW, I would have to do quick calculations.
You've never done that calculation before?
Not off the top of my head.
That's what happens when you get subsidies. It just, it doesn't, money doesn't
Kill
matter
Lacey.
anymore.
Well, he's
Is that what
doing
it is?
that. I'll make a motion to find the administrative review has been satisfied.
Second.
Any other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Great. All right,
The
thank you guys very much.
cost, ballpark figure for cost is down between $3.50 and $4 a watt now?
Yeah, utility stuff is actually down below $2 a watt, which is
Well, that's
really
mine, and the
remarkable.
ballpark number was 5.
Yeah, 10 years ago when I started doing this, stuff was, you know, tens of thousands of dollars more than what it is
You think
today.
you're gonna be here again with another proposal? Probably, huh?
You know, honestly, when we're in Hadley, we try and do as many roof mounts as we can.
Yeah.
We try and stay away from ground mounts.
How many watt, what is the standard panel generating now for wattage?
The newest ones that we're installing today are 360 watts per panel. Yeah, but the average is about 320 or
And
327.
mine was 280, mine are 280 a panel.
Yeah.
Where the
What a
panels,
difference.
they still coming from China?
Actually, the Philippines, some are made in the U.S. And South Korea. We definitely stay away from made in China.
And what are the better panels?
LG, just like the washer dryer electronics
Where
manufacturer,
else?
in South Korea.
South Korea.
Yeah. Or the one other really big manufacturer is SunPower, which is owned by Total, which is an oil company in Europe, and those are manufactured in the Philippines.
SPWR is the symbol.
Yep.
So there's nothing in the United States?
No.
There used to be, stuff's come and gone. There used to be a manufacturing plant at Fort Devens for Evergreen Solar. and
Talking
they
about
went
the
out of
Ball
business.
Patrick, he subsidized a company, what was it called? Anyway, they went bankrupt.
Who's that?
No, Slender, no, there was one in Massachusetts that was
Bills.
heavily subsidized. The state invested, I think, $50 or $60 million in it. What was it called?
That was Evergreen.
Evergreen.
Yeah.
Evergreen.
Yeah, Evergreen's a tough story. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Would you guys like me to collect this?
Yeah, I want that.
Oh, you want that? Okay. Great. Perfect.
Evergreen.
Very good.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
All right, so, this comes under the unexpected, because it arrived today from the building inspector requesting an interpretation of the signage at Pride. So, they have a 64 square foot ground sign. The bylaw does allow an additional 16 square foot pricing pod. So, that's fine.
Well, is that the way you interpret it?
It just says that right in the Bible.
Well, I thought that meant that the pods could not be more than 16 feet
Not to
within the
exceed
sign.
Not to exceed 16 square feet.
Pardon?
Not to exceed 16 square feet.
Not to exceed.
Yeah, in addition to the 64 square foot is allowed.
Yeah, the following specialty signs will also be allowed. Gas station pricing pods which do not exceed 16 square feet.
So that's what we gave them the permit when they came
Well,
in.
look at what John has a picture of what we voted on,
That, it's in there. Well, that's it.
but he wants extra.
No,
No. On the road, that's all that he wants. On the buildings, the story.
Well, look at the, John, show him the picture of what we approved.
where the hell is S8? I'm gonna find S8. Here
It
it
should
is.
be this one.
It's on there. Right there, see it?
That's what we approved, right there.
Right. And that's 16,
So he wants a bigger sign plus.
no,
No, he wants a 64 square foot sign down below.
And the
Then
pod.
then he's gonna put a space to separate it, and then he's gonna put this, what you call it?
pricing pod.
Yeah, pricing pod underneath it.
Well, what's
Actually,
gonna be on top? What's on top there?
I believe that's not,
Well, you got 2, 4, 8 by 8, that's 64 square foot. The top is 2, right? The rest is 64 square foot. See that, Rick?
So he's asking John for 64 square feet plus 16 more.
No,
Right.
that he's allowed under section 7.
No, but what did we
0.6
approve
point-
initially?
Right here,
this is what we approved.
that's what we approved.
It's- update.
So
That's, right here, that's what we approved.
I guess what is the question that Tim Nyhart has?
Well, he didn't think that was, so that he wanted the confirmation.
This sign is 80 square feet.
Right,
16 plus 64 is 80.
right. So there's the 2 foot for this, there's a 2 foot for this, that's 4 by 4.
So he's not asking to do something on the side, this was
No,
incorporated
right.
originally,
Right,
okay.
yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Right,
That's a non-issue.
right.
The issue is the wall sign.
Right.
What is he actually asking for? Is he asking or is Tim asking? What's who's asking?
The letter is from the senior project manager for Pride. We calculated the sign area based on the businesses being separate entities establishments, multi-tenant. The Subway, beer, wine, and food court were treated separately.
That's these right here.
So he wants the sign for Subway, he wants the sign for,
Food court
On the building.
on the building. This is on the building.
how many square feet will that come up to?
5. Let me see. 5, 7.5, so we got 64 square feet. 5. 5.5, that's 5
6
feet.
to 12,
7.5 feet, plus the Pride sign, so he's asking for
30.
30, he's just probably in the order of 90 to 100 square feet.
No, he got 33 square foot for the Pride, 12 square feet for the beer and wine, and 12 square feet for the Subway. See it right here? It's right below there.
Oh, okay.
See it?
Well, he doesn't know how to add and he doesn't know how to multiply them. 8 times 2.5 is not 12. 8 times 2.5 is 16 is 20.
On here, it's got 2 foot by 6 foot.
This one, he's got 2 foot by 8 foot.
What the heck? Where is that one?
This is the one that he just brought, this is the one that he gave to Tim.
This is the one that we voted for.
I'm telling you what he gave to Tim. He's got 2.5 foot by 8 foot, 2.5 foot by 8 foot, 2.5 foot by 8 foot, and he's calling it 12 square feet.
I thought all
Two-
plans are supposed to be consistent.
2.5 times 8 is 20.
This is what he came, this is the last, remember?
Yes,
The last one he came in.
yes, so this does not agree with this.
All right.
Okay, well, it doesn't matter anyway, because he's not entitled to multi-tenant
Correct.
signage. He's
Right.
only entitled to single-tenant signage. So he can have,
Isn't it 64 square
He
foot
can
on the
have,
building?
he can have 4 signs totaling 64 square feet, I think.
yeah,
Right.
yes.
33.
So he could take these 4 signs and divide it equally between the 64, and he'd be all set.
There's 24 and 33 right here, right? 24 and 33.
And that's what they did here. Okay?
So he's changing the signs from what we approved at the
He's
original site
changing the
plan.
sizes. On this application, he's changing the sizes from what's on here.
How much more is he changing?
He came in here, his 57 square foot on this plan here, right? 33 square foot, 12 square, and 12.
Now, okay, this is interesting. Both of these sheets are S8,
Yeah.
dated October 2/17, dated October 2/17. This is not the same as that.
Well,
Okay.
damn it, he's doing that all the time.
And the other part is, it doesn't matter, because doesn't matter what we approved. We cannot approve in excess of, we can't waive the sign
All right,
bylaw.
that's correct.
This
So-
is not in excess of it, it's
No,
57 square feet.
what is on this drawing is within the bylaw.
And that's what we
Correct.
approved.
What is on this drawing is not within the bylaw.
Right.
Yeah, see, these are,
Is there an author of that drawing?
How the hell did you
there's
do
an
that?
extra, not only that, but there's an extra sign on this drawing. Food court is not on here. Okay.
Every once in a while, we do have a developer that has a tendency to change things.
Well, just tell him he's got 7 extra square feet for that food sign.
Yeah, he has 4, he can have up to 4 signs totaling up to 64 square feet.
Right.
Yeah,
I'll take that too.
Which he was
I'll
approved,
talk to Tim in the morning.
he was approved, 57 square feet when we approved the road sign and the building signs. Right here they are.
Yep.
Now, that leaves him 7 square feet if he wants to put additional sign.
Right. Yep.
Or reduce these down, but not to exceed
Not to exceed.
64 square feet.
Yeah,
Yep.
4, not exceeding, up to 4, up to 64,
Not to exceed.
not to exceed 64.
Right.
Okay, I put on the zoning article topics for the fall. John had been asking about it. I don't know if we might want to defer this until we sit with Larry next, which is 2 weeks.
That might be good. So when you put in, when Larry's here in the next meeting, be prepared to talk about the detached accessory apartment and about the affordable trust. Everybody, I think everybody got this in their email, the municipal affordable trust fund.
No,
Take a look at that, because we can
my computer shut.
take wording out of that. You want to go with this?
Yeah.
Here.
Jim, this is much more complicated than we have yet begun to, well, delve into. This is, I don't know if we should even present it until we are well aware of what's happening.
Whoa, we gotta talk about it to know what we're talking about.
Absolutely,
That's what we
absolutely.
wanna do. I'm not talking anything except let's start reviewing this so that we can get a handle on it. That's my point. If we don't start
Perfect.
talking,
Perfect, that's,
then if we don't know what we're talking about, it's gonna be impossible to present.
Well, wouldn't you agree, Bill, that this is pretty open-ended, as any trust is? You can do many, many things, but the possibility is a trust won't do 90% of the things that are listed in there?
Yeah, trust always
Sure.
has more
Yeah.
authority
Right.
than
Sure,
it
sure.
uses.
So I wouldn't be concerned
Well,
about
I'm
that.
not-
It depends entirely on which direction
Yeah.
we go in, so
Right.
it's complex, I'll give you that.
Yes.
But
we gotta talk about it so we have a starting point.
But best to have Larry here.
Right.
I did ask Joel Bard for any documentation of trust funds, how operating documents for trust funds in other towns. I haven't heard back from him, but I'll
Okay.
bug him on that. Updates, who's been up to, out
Maryland, oh, this is an interesting one. I went to the seminar, was at, not the log cabin, who was that one? The log cabin was general zoning that had that, what's his name, Don from, anyways, that was last week. The marijuana one was at
It's in Northampton.
Northampton at the, on Con Street. Anyways, Margaret Furley, who is basically she's an assistant DA, or assistant to the assistant, in the DA's office in Boston. And a few general things. We had heard, just leave it at that if you had a medical marijuana dispensary, you were going to be automatically approved to give out regular marijuana. That is not true.
Good.
The way it's written is by 3/15/18, this Cannabis Control Commission must issue the regulations on general marijuana usage. On 4/1/18, they're going to begin accepting applications for general marijuana usage and sales. If by 7/1/18, the regs have not been issued by this commission, then any medical marijuana facility that is in operation can automatically start selling regular marijuana the very next day,
Without a permit?
without any other hearings or otherwise.
No way.
Now, if you have a moratorium in place, that's not gonna happen in your town. We have a moratorium on general marijuana that is good through, I think, November 30, 2018. End of November, it's either the 20 to 30, something, but the end of.
Can we extend that to the year 2025?
Probably not, because she got into that. Medical marijuana not automatically approved unless the Cannabis Control Commission doesn't issue the regs by 7/1. The application process is not set in stone, because I asked her, what is the process for somebody to come in and apply or get a regular marijuana system? And she says, I can't answer that question yet. She says, I'm assuming it's going to be similar to medical marijuana, but because they haven't decided that yet, I can't give you that answer. There will need to be a host community agreement between the medical marijuana, between a marijuana dispensary or whatever is going to be built about marijuana and the town itself. So with having a moratorium in place until we have, then obviously no host agreement can be put in. Towns will have home rule power in marijuana facilities regarding zoning. It is the growing of marijuana has deemed to not be a normal or routine agricultural use, which means that they are not an agricultural use and exempt from zoning. They must comply with all zoning if a growing facility is put in town.
Well, what's that mean? You can't grow it in an agricultural area?
No. If it was if it was deemed a regular agricultural
You do it by
use,
right?
they could do it by right any place in town,
Okay.
okay? And I don't know if it's the Attorney General or whatever group decided that the growing of marijuana is not she had a word for it. Anyway, it's not a regular marijuana, it's not a regular agricultural
In
use.
allowed use?
It's not a right to farm use, so that it can be regulated by zoning. If the town wants to adopt the maximum 3% tax, that has to be voted by town meeting. I think we did vote that in. Or
I don't think we voted it in. I don't remember.
Okay, but a town meeting must vote to accept the 3% maximum, it's called the local sales tax. Each town meeting must vote that in. If the town wants to not allow any marijuana use at all, it needs to be voted by town meeting and by a ballot vote. They both need to be passed. But the town has already voted the ballot vote overwhelmingly to allow it, so I don't think there's any.
Yeah, that was what? That was medical.
No. When the marijuana, the regular marijuana vote was passed, almost all the towns in Hampshire
It's by
County.
referendum.
The referendum vote,
Yeah.
the town of Hadley was in favor of allowing it. It's got some big tax, it's gonna be sold in town or sold next to the town. The town might as well sell it in town and get the sales tax on
I
it.
think the Pride Station would be a good place to have a dispensary.
What
Charging Tesla? up and
Don't
down there.
don't give him any ideas.
What I passed out to you was this Margaret Hurley put together as best she could a draft working copy of medical marijuana items. I don't know take a look at page 15, Bill. Page before. Did it come out? No, it didn't. Well, not really. There's some, what appears to be highlighted or bolded. In the original one she had passed out, they were yellow highlighted, but since we don't have a color copy, or it didn't come out. But anyways, This is a draft of what she thinks the Marijuana Regulation and Taxation Act will look like. But because, from what information she could gather, however, it's not the law yet, and it's also not set in stone and could change.
And this is going to sort of replace the referendum language.
Exactly. It is, in many cases, very similar to the medical marijuana stuff. As far as, testing and selling and, you can, from what I could tell, she thinks, but she's not positive regarding signage, that you'll be able to regulate signage of marijuana separately from a regular sign. But she was a little bit, not positive of that one yet. She's waiting to see what the actual regs say. But medical marijuana advertising signs are very specific. So,
So if they wanted to exceed our 64 square foot,
they cannot.
why?
We might be able to draft sign regulations exclusive to marijuana. She wasn't sure about that yet. She
The
said
medical marijuana has specific guidelines for signs.
That's correct.
You can't have a leaf.
That's right.
Sign.
Right.
So.
You know what I can't understand is the federal government, it's illegal for marijuana.
Correct.
Yes.
And why doesn't the federal government do anything if it's illegal to stop it?
Because the states are laboratories.
Yeah, but that's,
They let the states try stuff and see how it works. That's the whole purpose behind federalism.
What's interesting is a lot of banks won't touch it, and that's the limiting factor. You can't get financing.
Nor can you deduct any of the operating expenses on your income tax.
Federal.
under
Federal.
federal?
Federal.
Does that mean you don't have to pay taxes on it either, if it's illegal?
Well,
Yeah, right.
however, Bill's point is accurate. However, there was a special exemption given by the FDIC to Colorado that they could put the money in a bank. That's because they want to track it and tax it.
I will note as an
Yeah.
aside that the first documented death from marijuana ingestion has taken place in Colorado.
Yeah.
It was a 11-month-old toddler. Somehow he got a hold of a bunch of stuff you can eat.
Yeah,
Just
the
basically-
brownies, yeah.
Basically overdosed on it.
Boy, that's great.
Wouldn't take much to
Well,
do
Jim,
that.
did they mention anything about the ability of police officers to determine if one is impaired? Well,
No, she was really getting into things that you could do as far as zoning and stuff goes
Okay.
and stuff like that. It's really about zoning and how to, different things on zoning with marijuana. It wasn't really anything about the legal aspect of it.
I mean, the lawyers haven't begun to feast on this one yet, Bill.
Yeah, maybe I'll change my career focus.
But, like I said, when the regulations come out, they should be published mid to late March. And then it'll be up to us to get something on the fall town meeting and get it implemented, and get it, voted, passed, whatever it might be. There's a lot of towns that were at this meeting, and they didn't have any moratoriums yet. And the question came up, if you don't have a moratorium and the regulations are issued on 3/15, and her comment was, if you don't have a moratorium or you don't have a zoning regarding the marijuana,
Yeah.
then they could just come in and build it in your town.
It's like solar panels
Yes,
before
the
we
first-
had
Yeah, the
regulations.
first set of solar panels that went up between Middle Street and West Street.
Yeah.
You
So,
know, it
and
is,
so there's a lot we had to do, then if they get a moratorium, they talked some about that, but that was kind of interesting. It was amazing for all the stuff that you've seen, about a moratorium and how many towns have not adopted a regular marijuana moratorium yet.
But it's
I hate to-
typical
I hate
with
to-
this-
I hate to tell them, but there's never been a moratorium in Massachusetts on buying marijuana.
Why?
And-
Right.
And,
How do you know that?
well, from, I've heard about it.
Oh, okay.
But,
He
you know,
talks to
but the
Good
point is,
answer.
they're gonna price, this whole thing is gonna price themselves above what you can buy marijuana for on the
On the street.
street. And it's just almost pointless what they're doing, because you can already get it.
Well,
And
what's
and you can't get arrested for it.
the interesting part is you can have it, you can use it, but you can't buy it because there's no place selling it yet, but everybody has it.
Yeah, you know, at least with alcohol, you gotta distill it someplace or whatever.
Well,
Now, Jim, you mentioned the fact we have a, moratorium up to the date 4/18, but nevertheless, Ludlow just said they do not want any of it. So some towns are saying not allowed in our town.
Right, there are some. The towns that, on a ballot referendum vote, if they said, the ballot referendum vote says we don't want it, all it takes is a vote of the town council, city council, or selectmen to say, we're not gonna allow it, and that's it.
But that doesn't include Joe Schmo who's selling on the corner.
That's correct.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, if they don't sell it here, there's gonna be so many in Amherst.
Only
They're all-
7 dispensaries,
How much?
7.
In Amherst.
They
That's
limit it.
all?
They're limiting it.
That ain't enough.
Johnny, my point is you can already buy it in Hadley and nobody's told them people.
Well, I don't know.
So
Anyway.
how about
Okay.
building officials?
What?
You went to the thing at Delaney House, the log cabin.
Oh, yes, that was, they talked about, really, that talked a lot about, things that we're already doing pretty much correctly. It was very informative, the guy was pretty good,
That was the one we went to a couple of years ago, John.
Yeah.
and,
Nyhart was there?
Yeah.
yeah, Nyhart was there, most of the zoning boards, some of the zoning board was there, Nixon's administrative assistant was there, what's her name?
Jennifer.
Jennifer was there, yes, and it was informative. They talked. He talked a lot about. It seemed to pertain to some of the smaller towns. A lot of the topics that came up, and when he was talking about different things, and we were doing a lot of the stuff reasonably correct. Like one of the things he made a comment was, if your zoning bylaw has a use variance section in it, that's a bad thing to have. And so I says, how can you not have a zoning board of appeal without having a use variance section? But I came back, I looked at and he explained why it was a bad idea to have that.
Who, the lawyer?
The lawyer that was talking about this stuff, and he actually seems to argue in many cases in favor of the landowners as opposed to the towns. He's not really a town attorney for anybody that I could tell right now. But he knows a lot about, he's a very good, he seems to be a pretty good land use attorney. But I came back and I looked at our section on use variances, and it's pretty limiting. It gives you all kinds of conditions of, it's got to be this way, it can't do this, it shouldn't do this, it shouldn't do this. I mean, I don't see it, I don't see it as a problem. The way he seemed to give it as a problem was that if you allowed this in your bylaw, then the zoning board of appeals could just run roughshod and grant a use variance on everything. But he was also very specific that if you're looking for a variance, he says, a real use variance is almost impossible to get. And he said, if you go to court with most use variances and they're appealed, he says they're generally not upheld because of many conditions. And he says usually they're passed because nobody is against it. and that's probably true. So,
Yeah, so the ZBA is a safety valve in those situations. So,
right.
There's another meeting we received an email, was that from you, Bill, regarding Pioneer Valley, Tim Brennan?
The
Signature on it?
general meeting,
the upcoming general meeting of the Planning Authority, Pioneer Valley Planning Commission?
Correct,
That was
and
today.
it's gonna be in Hadley.
It's gonna be in Hadley, it's their holiday, sort of the holiday party. They'll have, they do have some speakers lined up. I believe everyone can come, I'm the primary, John's the alternate. Take a look at it.
okay.
So it's the 18th, I believe.
18th
So
of
should we
December.
respond individually, or
Yeah,
we're gonna go
yeah, I'd
as a
say,
group?
I don't think you need to go as a group. You don't need, there's no big rush, it's a big place, so
Yeah, okay.
What's the date on that one?
December 18th, I think.
Where do they have
I'm
the
guessing,
meeting?
John,
Meeting
but
house.
it's it.
If you wanna stop by sometime, I'll print it out for you if your email is down.
My whole computer's junk, I don't know what happened to it. I just got it back, they rebuilt it. It didn't last long, a month.
Okay,
It's cheaper to buy a new one.
so I've been doing a few things.
They put a whole new motherboard in.
There is a small group working on MS4. That is, at the moment, it's me, Marlo from DPW, Nixon, and there is also a consultant from Pioneer Valley Planning Commission working on that. And the whole thing seems to be being put off, but there's no reason not to get on top of it. We went through our stormwater management bylaw, and it seems to be substantially in compliance with MS4. It's based on what was called MS3, but MS4 is about the same. So the one thing that sort of the open item is whether it would be better to not have the stormwater management be a zoning bylaw, rather have it be a general bylaw. Because if it were a general bylaw, it would clearly apply to the town as
We
well.
have both.
We have, I did mention that, and they were gonna verify that. Then the question is, who should run it? Because right now, and this is something that the consultant seemed to be a little surprised about, and Marlo and David weren't really following, but when these things are going on, there's usually a lot of back and forth between Conservation Commission and Planning Board. We seem to have overlapping jurisdiction on it. So the question is whether it would make more sense to have it sent to Conservation Commission entirely, or stay with Planning Board. It's an area the consultant's going to try to get some guidance and make some suggestions, but she doesn't have anything now. And they are recommending putting this off, not trying to push to get a revised bylaw ready for spring, but fall at the earliest, and if not the following spring, because the deadlines keep on shifting. So we seem to be in a good place. We have a lot of the building blocks already in place. Pioneer Valley Transit Authority, they asked me to come in to look at some bus route reconstruction. So this is what they call bus rapid transit. They're trying to find ways to move the buses more quickly down the corridor. And there will be fewer bus stops, but they will be like the bus stop in front of the Elmwood. There'll be pull-offs with shelters. And they're reconfiguring what bus, they may have the bus from UMass to Smith College through Northampton. They may have it turn off on 116 and go directly to campus, because there are other buses that are serving University Drive already. That's their call to make. The one area that I flagged as a concern is they're talking about reconfiguring the bus stops in front of the malls. So, from the way the plan was laid out, it looks like they're not gonna route the buses through the malls anymore. Because that slows down, their objective is to get the bus from point A, Smith College, to point B, UMass, as quickly as possible. Even though the reason it goes through the malls is because that's where people want to go. But anyway, the goal is to have the eastbound stop will be basically in front of Trader Joe's, right where there's a U-turn turnoff. I think
There's already a bus stop there.
there's something, that's going to be the westbound bus stop for both malls.
I think that's crazy.
The westbound bus stop is going to be, right now it's just beyond the Home Depot driveway.
Yes.
It's now going to be moved closer to the intersection, so it'll be just about in front of Taco Bell. So westbound, everybody gets off in front of Taco Bell. Eastbound, everyone gets off in front of Trader Joe's.
How do they cross the street there?
They are going to put a full set of pedestrian crossings there, sidewalks and pedestrian
So what's
signals.
gonna do, they're gonna speed up the bus traffic and slow down Route 9 traffic.
They're going to be throwing a lot of pedestrians out there, and they said,
Does Amherst have enough ambulances?
I don't know. They did say that they looked at some of the traffic reports, and there isn't a high incidence of there's not been a high incidence of pedestrian vehicle accidents in that area. And I said,
Wait
that's
till they
because
change
there haven't been pedestrians in that area.
Yes.
They're looking at
You've been running them through the malls
Right.
and dropping them in front of the stores they want to go to. And now you're going to have them walking out to the street or across the street you're going to be introducing pedestrians to an intersection that doesn't see pedestrians.
And then what about in the wintertime, yeah?
Like I said, what about inclement weather?
Yeah. So I told them that,
That's an accident, looking for a place to
you know,
happen.
I told them they really should talk with the police chief about this plan. And they really had to, you know, I can't tell them how to run their business. They set their own objectives, but.
Quote unquote business.
Quote unquote. But it seemed if the objective is just to move the buses faster, they're ignoring the people. Anyway, they,
Automobile, run over the people and make them squeal.
okay.
Just an aside, you didn't have it here. Have you been following the discussions about the Amherst Motel and the lawyers are arguing that we...
Actually, that is here.
Oh, it is here. I didn't
It's
see
a
it.
records
That's
request.
next.
Oh, okay.
We did receive a public records request from Michael Pill, who has been retained by the people who object to the Aspen Apartments proposal.
Okay.
And I have provided him with some documents. I'm going to actually provide him with a copy of the plan here too. I didn't find, I don't think I have it I have the folder. And does that have a drainage report in it, do you
Yes.
think? Okay,
I believe it does.
okay. So,
If not, there should be some in the file.
we will provide, and this is the only thing that's in the file, so it must be in the other one then. We'll provide the records request. He will probably appeal both our decision and the Amherst decision. But,
How can they appeal it after 20 days? It's been long gone.
I haven't filed it yet,
Oh,
so.
okay.
He's arguing that Hadley doesn't have apartments in its bylaw. We basically approved the apartment complex.
But they're not in that.
The apartments already have these. So, you know what, he is going to, he'll do what he gets paid to do. Tom Reedy will do what he gets paid to do. There's no cost to the town either way.
No.
The second records request that came in, and Jim is going to process it a little bit. We got a subpoena from the lawsuit regarding the Walters Hadley complex.
But it burned down 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Wow.
So the apparently some of the displaced tenants are suing the laundromat and the people who made the company that made the washing machines in there, because apparently the fire was traced to that area. So they're just asking for copies of any permits, orders, stop works, whatever. I don't think we have a lot. Most of that complex was built before site plan approval. I think we did look at a couple of,
Yeah, we got a little bit of stuff left to find in the plan. but we
Yep.
did.
so that's not going very far. Campus Plaza access water leak. Apparently the water main that serves the Campus Plaza apartments is leaking. And the owner would like the town to fix it. And Marlo has been, asked me about it. I gave him what I could find. I was able to find the comprehensive permit decision, which was recorded at the Registry of Deeds. And there were some plans that have been done more recently. I referred him to Tim's office to try to find the ZBA file from 30 years ago, if it exists. I don't know where that would be. So I guess lawyers are involved, and
That initially was a friendly 40B, and it was a private development, and they basically showed us the most wonderful pictures you'd ever want to see for a housing complex, and they followed none of it because they did not have to follow it. And I remember the person, his initials are AP, and I still remember him, the way, how arrogant he was to the board, because he knew he was not gonna comply anyways.
Where's that, by Stop and Shop?
yeah.
Yeah,
The one behind Cole's building out there.
So
Those belong out somewhere in Mexico.
what I said to Marlo, I think Jim commented on an email too, that our interpretation is that anything inside the town's waters, anything inbound from the town's water valve is presumptively private.
Right.
Yep.
The road is that extension road
No,
to
no.
Stop and Shop?
No.
No, well, the
That
little,
is, isn't it?
Campus Plaza Road, I think, is a town road, I think. But that side road going to that housing development
That's
is
private.
totally private.
And would they want the town to pay for it?
yes.
Yeah, right.
So I put relocation of planning board office down there. Just there was a comment made at the select board meeting that after the senior center is erected and when it is time to demolish Hooker School, that it might be appropriate for us to move into the senior center for the duration.
Who said that?
Molly Keegan.
They gotta put us someplace.
We gotta
And
put
how
it some-
did that go over?
That did not go over well with
Surprise.
the representative of the senior center who was there. But if you look at it, there seems to be a lot of space there that,
there is a tremendous.
Is the representative of the senior center an elected official?
no,
I didn't think so.
someone in attendance at the meeting.
That was on one of my things for today too, to ask is to send another letter, because we still didn't get a response to the Board of Selectmen of what their proposal is for this planning board and room for all our plans. You know, don't you think we should have some idea what's gonna happen?
They did talk about it at the last select board meeting, which I watched, and they were just blocking out time, and it appears that the earliest, maybe even off by a year here, but it appears that the earliest that the senior center could be open is at least a year away, if not a year and a half.
There's no way it would be open in a year.
Okay, so spring of 19 then.
Yeah. I think that's a little bit ambitious myself. There's a lot to do yet.
So they are working, they're blocking out,
But I mean, if they didn't build it and the selectmen, say, look, the planning board is gonna be situated in there, what are they gonna do about it?
it's a town building, the select
But
board can decide
don't you
who
think
goes
we ought
where.
to do that now, so before they build this thing? Don't you, right? Don't you think we should be concerned,
Yes?
if we're gonna be a part of that, what do we need for space or anything else?
We have a lot of files.
What are you gonna do? You gonna wait till after they build it?
We got a lot of files, and they're heavy. I don't know how they're gonna move that big monster file cabinet.
Well,
You'll have it all scanned by then.
But it's still good, you've gotta keep it, you can't get rid of it.
Yeah.
We've gotta keep the paper copies.
And so,
So,
is the board agreeable to write another letter to the, I know we wrote one, and there was no response to it.
well, it might be appropriate now that they've actually got the votes have all passed and approved. What is going to happen to us? I'm gonna be signing my own assignment letter when I do that.
Is that one a form of a motion to send it or not? Just for our record.
I'll do it. I'll send a letter. You wanna put a motion in?
I wanna make a motion
Wanna
just
make a
for,
motion?
because we get the date and the time, to send the board of selectmen requesting a response to where the future planning board's, a meeting room gonna be and storage room.
Okay, I'll second the motion.
A motion and a second. Any other discussion? Who does that? You putting a chairman to do it?
Yeah, good old chairman.
Good old-
You're retired now. Keep you busy.
We got a motion and a second for the chairman to send a letter, to resend a letter.
Why did you have to ask that?
I was wondering- All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Right.
All opposed? No, I'll go on.
That's not to rescind, but to send again.
Send again.
Right,
Send.
resend, send again. Okay. And I got one other thing. Is this board gonna take a stand on, a single tax rate or a split tax rate? Like a
When's it
recommendation from
coming
the
be-
board to the select board?
Do they know when that's coming before the select board? If it is?
I don't know, but they just,
I think they have to vote it before the end of December, although I am not sure.
I certainly would like a letter to them, just so it sinks in their head that what a standard this planning board is. If we want to put any reasons to it,
I think if they have a split tax rate, they're killing the golden goose.
well, I think it's going to be disastrous
I
for
do
the
too.
town.
Okay,
I
Disastrous.
do too.
Okay, I will put this on the agenda for
Yeah.
our next meeting, which is 2 weeks away. We can't really discuss it because it's not on the
All right, so
agenda.
that's going to be December.
It'll be the first Tuesday in December.
Is that
It'll
the
be
second?
First Tuesday,
No, I'm
which will
sorry.
be
Later.
December 6th or something?
Fifth.
5th.
December, what?
December 5th.
Aye.
5.
Sinkhole.
Okay.
have nothing else.
I have nothing else. Anybody have anything else?
Negative.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting is history, thank you, and thank you, John.
You're welcome.
You're good. You need to go.